Welcome to the Fear and Greed Daily Interview. I'm Sean Aylmer. We love talking about drones on Fear and Greed. It's an industry full of innovation and Australian companies are doing some extraordinary things. Swoop Aero, for instance, goes beyond the novelty of delivering pizzas by drone, instead using them to deliver hundreds of thousands of vaccine doses, medications and other supplies. The company's been recognised by the World Economic Forum as a global innovator. Eric Peck is the co-founder and CEO of Swoop Aero. Eric, welcome to Fear and Greed.
Thanks very much for having me, Sean.
So you're a former Air Force pilot. How do you go from that to drones?
That's a very good question. Both my parents were accountants. So, as you said, I did the natural thing and joined the Air Force after school.
Naturally, yeah.
After a university degree and a very short stint flying the Hawk fighter jet, I went on to fly the Hercules, so the C-130J based out of Sydney. I did 2 tours of the Middle East, a whole lot of humanitarian work across Southeast Asia, but knew that my future lay beyond the military and I wanted to expand my skill set out of it. So I completed an MBA and made a move into the private sector where I started off at a small consulting firm in Sydney and then ultimately moved to Deloitte in the strategy and operations team. And while I was at Deloitte, I met a robotic engineer who's now my co-founder, who was very well known for industrial automation, so building either large-scale drone aircraft that are custom built or programming things like the robots you see driving around warehouses. And as an Air Force pilot and a robotic engineer, we got asked a question about whether a drone could move chemotherapy medication in the New South Wales outback. The question came from someone who was working with, I think, Western Health District in New South Wales. And it was really, the problem statement was a kilo of chemotherapy medication in a small esky 100 kilometres. And that's a really easy thing to do once in 2017. It's even easier now. But we thought the real question was, what does a system look like that can do that safely and very reliably 1,000 times a week? And everyone else was taking their toy drone and trying to make a delivery drone. And we thought what we should do is take that 70-ton Hercules that I used to fly and shrink it down into an electric autonomous aeroplane and then use software to automate everything around it. And so in 2017, we founded the company.
The incredibly shrinking Hercules.
Hopefully, yeah.
So, I mean, don't get too technical on me here, Eric, but how do you do it? How do you get a 70-ton Hercules into a drone?
Well, I often joke that we built the unit economic model and the risk management plan before we even quit our full-time jobs.
Right.
We thought that aviation it's a very long-standing industry with a high degree of safety standards, and so we conceptually thought that you needed a single airframe that could do multiple different types of missions, and not just delivery, but also search and rescue and disaster response or emergency management, all within the one airframe. And then it needed to be, basically following all of the Industry 4.0 principles. It's got to be powered by a digital twin. It's got to have artificial intelligence on board. And then basically, much like the Hercules, it had to have multiple levels of redundancy so that we could prove that no matter what, the aircraft would fly really safely over an urban suburb, like inner city or inner Melbourne, and also have all the characteristics necessary to serve the outback in Australia. And so we had this really unique set of product requirements and we squished it all down into a small, very intelligent electric airplane.
So how big is it?
The aircraft itself weighs just under 25 kilos and the wingspan's just under 3 meters. So it can kind of land fairly easily in a car park.
Wow, that is quite remarkable. And the aeronautics around it is more like a plane than a drone?
Yeah, that's it. So it takes off and lands like a helicopter with a series of propellers that lift it upwards, and then they all stop and line up directly into the airflow, so there's no drag and nothing to hold the aircraft back, and then it flies forward like a normal airplane, up to 175 kilometres out and back. So it's a long-range aircraft.
Stay with me, Eric. We'll be back in a minute. My guest this morning is Eric Peck, co-founder and CEO of Swoop Aero. Okay, now I have read some of the statistics on what Swoop Aero has done in terms of delivery, but take me through some of the things you've done with this technology. Quite remarkable.
Oh, thank you. I mean, 3 employees in a garage won the world's first competitive tender for medical drone delivery. And so we were in a garage in Bayswater in Victoria, and we competed against 20 other companies around the world, a lot of Silicon Valley venture capital-backed companies at the time that were building all different types of technology. But with this very, very strong product requirement in view, we won this tender. And so we went to Vanuatu for 5 months and delivered vaccines predominantly, but then picked up samples and moved them around, and really honed in what a product needed to look like. And we also had a team that we hired back at home, continuing to build the technology. And I often joke that we raised our first venture capital round. I was standing on an island in Vanuatu with a laptop in one hand, a phone in my ear in the other, briefing people through the financial model.
Wow.
And so we kind of grew the company out. We then won subsequent tenders with different organizations, all competitive in DR Congo, Malawi, Mozambique, and Namibia. And if I fast forward today, we've got about 102 people on the team. We've been operating on the African continent continuously since 2019 now, so approaching the 4-year mark. Our operation in Malawi is the biggest drone logistics network in the world. It offers a full range of services from medical delivery through to mapping and monitoring, emergency management, disaster response with a range of different customers. The DRC has been operating for 2 years, so the Congo, Mozambique for a year. We have an operation in Queensland that has been running flat out doing pharmaceutical to the door delivery, and that will expand with funding from the federal government to be the biggest integrated drone services network in the world, covering initially 150,000, then 250,000 square kilometres. And we've got an operation in New Zealand as well. So a lot of really exciting stuff happening all over the world.
Yeah, it's incredible. How long a journey time can this plane, for one of a better term, I don't want to use it a drone. You're calling it a drone, I presume, but it's kind of better than a drone in a sense. What's the word I should be using?
We call them kites because that is the name of the aircraft, but we're quite happy with drone or aircraft, whatever's easiest.
Okay, so I'm going to call it a kite. So, I mean, how far can it fly? What's the journey time?
Yeah, so these aircraft can fly 175 kilometres in a single flight, which is about 90 minutes in the air. And they're designed to fly very fast. So our idea is that we can move something from a point to the point at which it delivers value as quickly as possible and get there right on time. And so, that's kind of looks like 4.7 kilograms of payload as quickly as we can to the point it's needed, whether that's a search and rescue kit to someone in the water, or it's a spectral camera above a flood zone, or oxytocin to a mother that's just given birth at a hospital in Malawi. That's kind of what we specialise in.
Wow. So Swoop Aero itself, though, it's more than just the kite. You're actually sort of end-to-end as well. So you go and somehow procure the medicine, let's say, Malawi, and set it up, fly it out, and then bring it back. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we design, prototype, and manufacture the physical aircraft right here in Australia at our factory in Port Melbourne. And we develop all the software that supports them as well. So everything in the technology stack is Australian designed and owned. We then build the aircraft and operate them all around the world using this technology stack. And so, we will embed ourselves with, say, the Ministry of Health in Malawi, or if we look at Queensland with the Darling Downs Health Region and the Mater Hospital Group, and we basically move all their products for them, guaranteeing that we can improve their level of service or cut the wait time down for pathology sample results or test results. Or we can even deliver it out to your door, your prescription that you get from a telehealth appointment with the doctor. It's kind of our core goal is to realize the next giant leap in how essential supplies and services are delivered.
I'm feeling really ignorant in this conversation, Eric. I got to tell you, what about, do you need a pilot to fly a kite, or how many kites can a pilot fly at once?
Definitely. I mean, so the initial aircraft we designed, we had one pilot flying every aircraft, but we knew that to make this operation viable in the long term, we needed to be able to have the aircraft being effectively autonomous and having one pilot watching multiple of them. And so we call this approach human on the loop. And so as I sit here right now in Australia, we fly 5 aircraft with one pilot monitoring them. And for the operation in Malawi and Mozambique and DRC, we have one pilot flying 10, with an ultimate goal of working closely with CASA, the aviation regulator in Australia, and the Federal Aviation Administration in the United States to get that number towards one pilot flying 30 aircraft at the same time.
Wow, incredible. So that's where you are now. Well, not 1 for 30, but you are delivering medicines around the world. What next? I know that you recently turned down a takeover offer worth about $100 million, or at least reportedly worth about $100 million. You obviously have great faith in the company. What next?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think we think we can do fantastic things with an Australian-built and Australian-manufactured technology that we're exporting to the world. And so our core goal as a company is to deploy a series of these drone services networks around the world, starting with the one in Queensland and then moving to Victoria, then Switzerland, Canada, and the United States. and reach 1 billion people in the year 2030. And that's what we're really focused on as a company. And if I backtrack that towards the end of 2025, we'll end up having 10 networks operational all around the world in high-income countries, an additional 6 networks operating across the African continent, and 1,200 aircraft out in the wild doing flights every day to unlock the potential of the sky.
Wow. I mean, the potential is enormous, and we've been talking a lot about the health benefits, but there must be huge amounts in disaster relief and all sorts of things that I can't even imagine at the moment.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the full range of services we offer includes, medical transport, first responder and emergency response, but also mapping and monitoring and data collection. We do a lot of work with the agricultural sectors, both in Australia and overseas. Emergency management. So we work with some government organisations here in Australia, and then the likes of the World Food Programme, UNICEF and the World Health Organization on the African continent, and then all the way down to being able to move, generic everyday supplies and even e-commerce supplies for people like postal services or e-commerce providers. It's what we do as a company is we're able to either increase the level of service or reduce the cost of the current level of service while decarbonising part of an organisation's supply chain or the way it delivers services, which is really exciting.
More fun than flying a Hercules?
It's flying the Hercules was a lot of fun, but having an awesome team working towards this, amazing goal of reaching 1 billion people in the year 2030, I don't think I could be choosing to do anything else.
Eric, thank you for talking to Fear and Greed.
Thank you very much.
That was Eric Peck, co-founder and chief executive officer of Swoop Aero. This is the Fear and Greed Daily Interview. Join us every morning for the full episode of Fear and Greed, Australia's most popular business podcast. I'm Sean Aylmer. Enjoy your day.